Welcome. My name is Dave Miles, and today I want to talk to you about strengthening your reports, your valuation reports, using the Rmave Valuation Edition. What makes a report stronger is the credibility. Credibility in a report is defined by the relevant information and the reliable information. Relevant meaning that it pertains to the subject company at hand, and reliable meaning that you can recalculate it and that the craft of taking a data set and applying it to the subject company is adequate and complete. When we talk about RMA, we're really talking about benchmarking the company. This is the empirical data we use to say here's the strengths and weaknesses of a company based on its position in the market space. If we assume we're valuing a CPA firm, for instance, the first value driver I would think would be out there would be the clients, the quantity and quality of clients. The second factor, I think, is the cost structure to support those clients. So let's assume a small 2 to 5 partner firm, and let's assume an 85% operating expense ratio. How does that tie back into the report process? Well, first, I would go out to the internet and I would use the RMA Valuation Edition to drop down the decile information that's available inside of that data set. Now, what makes decile information better than average information? Well, decile information allows us to rank a company, and it compares the number of the population below or above a certain number. For instance, my daughter is taking the ACT test to try to get into college, and she got an ungodly 33 on the ACT test. Basically, it says 98% of the people taking that test were worse, had a worse off score than she did, and 2% of the people had a higher score than she did. Now that ranking gives you a very complete picture of where you sit in that space, that population. Ranking also shows skewing by the outliers. A 50th percentile is the median, and a lot of times in our comparable transactions we will go to the median rather than to the average, because the average is subject to outliers. It empirically defines a subject company because, like I said, you can see exactly where you sit on that scale, on that curve, as to where the subject company is going to be. Averages are subject to outliers. The average, you can only say if you're comparing yourself to the average that I'm above or below the average. You might be exactly on the average as well. And in RMA, you cannot get the median except for the ratios themselves. If you're looking at the common size balance sheet or the common size income statement, you cannot get to the median any other way than through the RMA Valuation Edition. So let's look and see how this really translates into a hypothetical case here. We're looking at a CPA firm, and let's assume that the 85% operating expense ratio. RMA's average is 85.1%. However, when we look at those P-tile rankings, we find that we're in the 42nd P-tile ranking. Now, how does that work? Well, we take the decile information and we use interpolation on a spreadsheet to come up with the 42nd percentile. Now, I want to ask you, if you're figuring out that your operating expense is in the 42nd percentile and 85% is close to 85.1% of the average, which report is going to be more credible? My subject company is operating expense is better than 58% of the firms in its size in the industry. The risk that this CPA firm has is less than the average, and therefore the discount rate is lower due to this factor. Or, if you're comparing yourself to the average, the subject company operating expense is average for a firm in its size in this industry. The risk this CPA firm has is neither higher nor lower, and therefore the discount rate is not affected due to this factor. The analysis and the credibility behind each of these different statements can make a difference in how strong your valuation reports are. My name is Dave Miles. Feel free to contact me with any questions or issues you have about RMA Valuation Edition. I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.